Good morning, welcome back to the channel. I'm using my little ZV-1 to vlog on this morning instead of the A6600. I'm rapidly coming to the conclusion that this actually is the best vlogging camera that you can get. I'm actually going to just spin you round and show you what the weather looks like in Kent today. As you can see in the background in the distance, it's grey, overcast, there's not any gaps in the sky, it's just continually grey. And today what I'm hoping to do is I'm going to go up to some local woodland and I'm looking for some late fall colour. And I think the trees, when a lot of the leaves are actually off, make for some really quite outstanding images. I'll just give you an example. This is just my copper beech in the corner of the garden here. Most of the leaves are off it, about 50%, 60% are off now, and what it's allowing you to see is through to the structure of the tree with the colour of the leaves still around, and I think that's actually quite nice. So I'm not going to use that as the example for this, but what I'm going to do is disappear up into the woods where I can find some silver birch and some other trees like that, and I'm hoping that I might be able to get some half decent images. It's absolutely silent. There's no wind, no movement in the air at all, so there's no risk of leaves moving. Well, they still might move if I've got a relatively long shutter speed, but I'm hoping for some half decent pictures, so come along with me and let's see what we get from today. As you're aware, those that follow the channel, woodland and colour in woodland is something that really I do like. A lot of my satisfying images, or images that I really like, do come from that sort of environment, so the fact it's a grey and overcast and possibly potentially wet day doesn't matter. Get some wellies on, get a coat on, go out and get some pictures. Come along with me and see what we get. Well, as you can probably tell, I'm driving. I'm going to the locations I'm going to hopefully get some decent shots today from, and I thought I'd just talk to you briefly to camera whilst avoiding all of these bicyclists that frequent these country lanes around here every Sunday morning. What I wanted to say is, since I did the piece to camera at home to explain what I'm hoping to get today, things have changed quite a bit, and they've changed quite a bit for the better, I must say. I'm really quite pleased. What we've got is quite a lot of fog around. I don't know if it'll be the same when I get to the place I'm going to, which is about 6 miles from here, but certainly it seems quite widespread, this fog at the moment, and that actually will make a big difference. I love the way the fog makes things sort of disappear into the distance as they get fainter and fainter. It just adds so much more depth to the picture that you can't get without the fog being present. We had mist last weekend and it was just too small an amount to really make a big difference, but today we've got some pretty serious fog. I'm talking about not being able to see anything about 300 yards away. Now, I don't know if the woods will have that in, and for the gentleman in the past that's commented on why would I talk to camera whilst driving the car, I'm talking to the camera while driving the car much in the same way I'd talk to my wife while driving the car. It's about as distracting. In fact, if anything, talking to other people in the car while driving is actually probably more distracting because it's more stressful. Anyway, I'm going to cut it short there, and when we get to where I'm going to, the woods just outside Sevenoaks, I'm hoping there'll be some decent shots to be had, or you just won't see anything. It'll just be white and I can do a minimalist picture of grey against grey and just claim there's a tree in the background. Anyway, join me for that and let's see how well it works. I might get lost in the woods as well, so I might need my sat-nav to find my way back, but we will see. Yes, as I'm sure you can see now, looking out of the front window as I'm driving along, the fog is really quite a lot. I'm hoping it's not going to be too bad, but either which way, I'm going to make the most of whatever we get when I get there. I've got Dog with me again, so if he happens to do the thing he did off camera yesterday, it was quite funny because I was doing a piece to camera, concentrating on the camera, and the camera's field of view over my shoulder showed the dog in the edge of the field having a crap. And I didn't know about that because I was talking to camera and he'd finished by the time I turned around and set up for the next shot. And it was quite funny because when I actually came to edit the photograph or the video later in the day, I thought, there's a problem. So I've had to re-edit that video, having released it once, to explain to the person who commented to me that they hoped I'd picked up the dog shit, and I actually walked the dog first thing this morning, and having known where he'd done it, went on the same walk as well, and I did actually collect it, because I don't like it when people don't tidy up after their animals, in the same way I don't like it when people leave litter everywhere. But anyway, let's get to the forest, and let's see, or the woodland, and let's see what we can make from this. This beautiful diffuse light though, because the fog is making whatever light there is pretty flat across the board, it means the colours are going to be really much better in my opinion, because there's no sudden high contrast, very bright areas and very dark areas. So let's see where we get on when I get to the location. Yes, and here we are, and isn't this magnificent? Look at this woodland around as I spin you around, and he's done the same thing he did yesterday, so I'll have to pick that up. So yes, look at this beautiful colours. Now, I'm only just off the road. What I'm going to do is go to the top of the hill here, so that one, the dog's well away from the road, and two, we've got more trees. So let's get to the top and see what we can set up for. Catching my breath after that walk up. It's about 100 to 120 feet, one in one, done in about 2-3 minutes. Pretty impressive for someone my age, but I'm a bit out of breath. So I'll catch my breath, have a look around, do a bit of B-roll, and look for a composition. I've actually got on the front of the camera the polarizer. The main reason for that is, if you can see down the track here, roughly where the dog is standing, the leaves on the ground are wet, which basically means they're reflecting and shiny. So I don't really want them shiny in the picture, so let me show you what that actually looks like in reality. I've got the polarizer set to maximum, and you can see this area is nice and sort of colourful, but if I minimise the polarizer, you can see it starting to lighten up with the reflection from the sun, obviously, the unpolarized or polarized light, whichever one it is that it actually does this with. So I prefer that image, and I actually prefer it with the dog standing there, so I might take it with him there. Oh, perfectly stationary for half a second shot. Excellent. Right, onward and upward, and on to the next shot. There's so much potential here. I could probably spend all day here, but Sarah will probably leave me because I won't have been at home doing things about the house, so I can't spend all day here. But anyway, let's move on and see what else we can find. Can't believe how quiet it is though. I met one couple walking through, just taking their constitution, but I've not seen anyone else, and normally this area is absolutely thronging with people and dogs. I can't believe it. I know we're in a lockdown, but we're still allowed to take exercise. Say it always pays to look behind you. Excuse me, it's not COVID, just normal runny nose winter behaviour. And this is an example of which I was walking obviously in that direction, but I turned around and found, looking back, there's a lovely tree arching over the track here. My hand works the opposite way on the screen than it does in real life. Anyway, and behind it in the distance, in the slight mist that there is, there's another small tree which has got still some remaining leaves on it, and the track leading up to it I think actually makes for quite a nice shot. So let me spin you around and show you what I framed up here. I've got this nice little vertical composition. I know I've got sky in this, but I'll blow that out, it'll have to be. I can't do much about that. Set the polarizer up correctly, maximum effect, and That's all nicely in focus. We're at manual, but it's F8. I think it's F8. It's F8 now. Gives me a bit more. I might actually go a bit higher, F11. Yeah, that's the focus peaking now is showing a lot more of that image is now red. So that's pretty much, I can actually zoom in massively and just check that, and lo and behold, that's tack sharp. This is a manual lens. I don't normally like using manual lenses simply because my eyesight's not very good, but that I think makes for quite a nice image. And I've got it on a 10-second timer unusually, because this little Peak Designs tripod, although it's light and easy to have, it actually does allow a little bit more vibration than my big Sirui tripod, which I couldn't be bothered to bring because it's heavy and I've got to walk up a hill, blah blah blah. So I'm hoping that image has worked. That doesn't look too shabby. Let's just wind the compensation down on the video camera so that it's not blown out. That is, yes, I like that. I like that a lot. That's got a lot of potential. I'll probably vignette that quite heavily in post and bring out the colours, but that just looks so naturally beautiful. It's just so autumnal, that image, to me. It just says everything. So whizzing you back round again, back to the ugliness. Why have I ended up zoomed in? I've ended up zoomed in for some reason. I've lost the dog, so I best get him back. Walk on to the next composition. Actually stood with the tree that I used to frame that last shot directly behind me here, because I wanted to show you what, because it wasn't that obvious from the picture, what it was that I was framing into the distance. And it's actually this. And it's this series of small shrubs or baby trees here, sort of bits of trees growing up. And it's that in particular, it's that greeny yellow series of branches hanging over the track. That's what the framing was deliberately about, and it wasn't that obvious showing you from on the back of the camera, because obviously the shot was taken from much further away. But that was pretty much the intent, and I think that will make for quite a pleasant image. I'm looking forward to processing that one. So onward and upward. My final shot from here, I'm framed up on this series of leaves on this branch leaning across, as opposed to the sheer black verticals of the trees in the distance and the bit of mist that's left going into the distance. And what I'm going to do is, there's a very small amount of wind, it's not a lot, but it's enough to make movement in the leaves. So I put a 6 stop on, and I'm actually going to give it a 10-second exposure, so the leaves are deliberately blurred and the trunk of the tree obviously isn't moving, so that should be perfectly sharp and beautiful. So let me take that shot and I'll show you what it is. It's quite a simple shot. It's just a couple of trees and then into the distance more and more mist as the trees disappear, and then the beautiful vibrance of all of that colour in that branch that's leaning across the frame. And I think that works quite well, so I'm going to take that shot, and it's going to be it's at f11 13th of a second. Sorry, 13 seconds, not a 13th of a second. So that's doing that. While that's doing that, I'll swing you around and just let you see the shot. It's basically the bit above my head. I think that's going to work really well. Another one I'm looking forward to processing. What more would you do on a Sunday morning, or in fact any day, than have a reason to come out and enjoy yourself? Photography, it's great, I love it. Go to all sorts of places I wouldn't be bothered to get out to go to half the time, but as I was saying, I wouldn't bother going to normally, or at least I'd be less likely to go to without a good reason. I just had to cut it short there because some mad bicyclists were heading this way, and Ozzy was likely to run across the track in front of them and cause a spillage of bicyclists. So yeah, no, I think that shot's, it's finished it now, and I'm looking at it and I think that is a really that is a stunning shot. That really is nice. I'm really quite surprised how well that's turned out, but bit of post-processing on that and I'm going to be more than happy with that image. Let me just give it a hand to focus on. It's having trouble focusing on the back of the camera because it's quite dark relatively, but I think it's done it. So, down the hill, try not to break both legs, and back home, bit of processing. Well, on the way home now, all in all, a really pleasant couple of hours. The dog enjoyed himself, I certainly enjoyed myself. I haven't, or don't know what the pictures are going to look like, I haven't done them yet, but driving home,